And of course, he and Ted Cruz still would like to win outright, which would save a
Viral on social media. It's from 1964, but there are eerie similarities to today's GOP race. The ad is called Confessions of a Republican Supporting President Lyndon Johnson in the Battle Against Republican Senator Barry Goldwater. Joining me now is William Bogert, the actor featured in the ad. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's very kind of you to have me.
May I call you Bill?
I wish you would.
But we're going to play this the entire ad, and then we're going to talk about how foretelling it was with respect to today's election. Let's listen to it.
I don't know just why they wanted to call this a confession. I certainly don't feel guilty about being a Republican. I've always been a Republican. My father is, his father was. The whole family is a Republican family. I voted for Dwight Eisenhower the first time I ever voted. I voted for Nixon the last time. But when we come to Senator Goldwater, now it seems to me we're up against a very different kind of a man. This man scares me. Now, maybe I'm wrong. A friend of mine has said to me, listen, just because a man sounds a little irresponsible during a campaign doesn't mean he's going to act irresponsibly. You know that theory, that the White House makes the man. I don't buy that. You know what I think makes a president? I mean, aside from his judgment, his experience, are the men behind him, his advisors, the cabinet. And so many men with strange ideas are working for Goldwater. You'll hear a lot about what these guys are against. They seem to be against just about everything, but what are they for? The hardest thing for me about this whole campaign is to sort out one Goldwater statement from another. A reporter will go to Senator Goldwater and he'll say, Senator, on such and such a day you said, and I quote, blah, 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 whatever it is, end quote. And then Goldwater says, well, I wouldn't put it that way. I can't follow that. Was he serious when he did put it that way? Is he serious when he says he wouldn't put it that way? I just don't get it. A president ought to mean what he says. President Johnson, now, Johnson at least is talking about facts. He says, look, we got the tax cut bill, and because of that you get to carry home X number of dollars more every payday. We got the nuclear test ban, and because of that, there's X% less radioactivity in the food. But Goldwater, often you can't, I can't figure out just what Goldwater means by the things she says. I read now where he says, a craven fear of death is sweeping across America. What is that supposed to mean? If he means that people don't want to fight a nuclear war, he's right. I don't. When I read some of these things that Goldwater says about total victory, I get a little worried, you know? I wish I was as sure that Goldwater is against war as I am that he's against some of these other things. I wish I could believe that he has the imagination to be able to just shut his eyes and picture what this country would look like after a nuclear war. Sometimes I wish I'd been at that convention in San Francisco. I mean, I wish I'd been a delegate. I really do, because I would have fought, you know? And I wouldn't have worried so much about party unity, because if you unite behind a man you don't believe in, it's a lie. I tell you, those people who got control of that convention, who are they? I mean, when the head of the Ku Klux Klan, when all these weird groups come out in favor of the candidate of my party, either they're not Republicans or I'm not. I've thought about just not voting in this election, just staying home, but you can't do that, because that's saying you don't care who wins, and I do care. I think my party made a bad mistake in San Francisco, and I'm going to have to vote against that mistake on the 3rd of November.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Interesting. What a performance, first of all. Well,
that guy's terrific.
That guy's you.
Yeah.
Does that take you back? Do you remember the day you did that?
Oh, yes. I remember. There are some things that I don't remember. One of the things that I was talking about before. I think I mentioned it to Christy and I just mentioned it to Rachel. As far as I know, and I may be wrong about this, but as far as I know, this was only shown once. But it made a tremendous impression.
Yeah, and you're talking about Christy and Rachel. Those are my producers that that you spoke to about. Based on that ad, people might think that you're a Democrat, but you say that you're a Republican. You came from a Republican family, and you did that because you believed in it, not just because you were an actor, but because you believed that.
Yes, but unfortunately, the last Republican I voted for was John Lindsay.
Really?
Yes, because in those days, of course, the Republican Party was the party of Lindsay, of Jacob Javits, of people like that, to a somewhat lesser degree Nelson Rockefeller. Now, I feel about almost all the current nominees the way I felt about Mr. Goldwater. No, worse than that, because Senator Goldwater was a very good senator. He did a lot of good things. He was a blessing to the people of Arizona, and I don't see that.
Why do you say worse now? Because in that ad you said that Goldwater scares you. You talk about the political climate then. What about the political climate now? How does that scare you?
It's worse.
Worse than Goldwater?
Yes, because in Goldwater's time, essentially, the only major threat that we had was Russia. And Russia has had all the same reasons for not going to nuclear war that we did. Now, we've got ISIS, we've got, I can't remember the names of all these.
You have Al-Qaeda, you have ISIS, you've got a number of different groups.
And a lot of them are producing suicide bombers.
Yeah.
Well, give a suicide bomber a hand grenade, that's one thing. Give him an atomic bomb, that's another thing altogether.
A lot of people are saying that Trump scares them. Does he scare you?
Yes.
Why?
Because I think that his ego is essentially uncontrollable. And that means that he could be badgered into something that would be truly outrageous and very unfortunate.
The ad, you refer to the 1964 convention, and you talk about the KKK and other extreme groups.
Yeah.
We just talked about that, about other groups. Did it bother you when Trump seemed to waffle? He said he's denounced them, but when he seemed to waffle about the KKK, did that bother you?
Yeah, a lot. I don't understand why. I don't understand how he could be more dismissive of the guys that were running against him than he could be against the head of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
What are the parallels between Goldwater and Trump that you speak of?
Well, the first, the Ku Klux Klan. Second, he said, Trump said that he would bomb the bejesus out of ISIS. Well, Goldwater never said that he would bomb the bejesus out of Russia, but the implication was always there.
You say in the ad, if you unite behind a man you don't believe in, it's a lie.
What a great line. I wish I'd written it.
Do you think that's something that the Republican delegates should consider now?
You betcha my golly.
Everyone is saying, you know, I'm still going to vote for no matter who our nominee is.
Wrong.
How is that wrong?
Because the country is more important than either party. And you have to, as long as you have the right to vote, I think you have the obligation to use it in a way that you think is going to be best for the country. And I don't see any way, as successful as Mr. Trump has been, I don't see any way that he could be a great force for the country.
William Bogert. Bill, as you say. Thank you
you
for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.